reasoning out appropriately refers to having proper opinion of essential and interpretive sutras. Likewise, if your doubts disappear, then the practice can concentrate to one place, or else the doubts will start rising, and just like someone who is crossing the stone valley, nothing will be sure. We have not yet entered this stage. And even now, there are parts which we don't have a proper belief, and also we don't have enough strength. So sometimes we go someplace and pray for our luck. And also, if there's also some water or miracle, you visit there in order to drink. And even from the point of view of religion, there are many errors. And also, in our daily life, there are parts which we are deluded. And here, it doesn't talk about those dimensions, but here, if you're not able to understand the essential or interpretive sutras, the problem arises because the essential sutra talks about things in a direct manner, and interpretive sutra talks about things with a comparison. So do not do bad things. That is not the essential study, but essential sutra talks about the study which has been realized after the understanding of the reality. But if there's a need for you to release yourself or escape from the present, then the teaching is done in an interpretive manner, because if the conversation or if the talk is done in an evil way, there are times when it is not bearable for both the parties. So to the lazy person, if we tell them not to be lazy, then even in our normal regulations, if you're lazy, then you could starve to death. And also for the teachings, if you're lazy, you would distance yourself from the teaching. And if you start distancing yourself from the teachings with other reasons, then if you distance yourself from the laws of the Buddhist law, then you will also start living your life in a wrong way, and that could result in a pathetic or miserable result. That's why we tell you not to live your life in that manner, and that's why we are also learning Buddha's teaching. However, if you are not able to differentiate the essential and interpretative teaching, then the speeches of Buddha, you could misunderstand or misinterpret the teachings of Buddha, which is done in an interpretative manner. For example, if there is good and bad, and if he tell you to do the good things, then what happens is that, although I'm doing the good things, but why are you doing the evil things? And you could get into a fight. And so if you have obsession with doing good things, that could also arise arguments. And also in our daily life, those people who claim to live upright, or who claim to live righteously, they also get into argument because they talk evil of other people. You have to be clear of what is essential and what is interpretative teaching. Then only there will be no errors. In order to escape from the evil, you talk about the virtue, and virtue does not exist from the beginning. That's why there's also no reason for you to talk to other people as if everything that you have done is right. And also offering to others or giving things to others or sharing with others. With the capitalism, you start having the or growing authority that it belongs to me. For example, if a kelp is given to you, from the point of view of the kelp, there's no right for anyone to give or take them, but we talk about it from the right point of view of the human beings, and that's why in reality, passing down something, even a commodity, that's also void from the beginning. And so, although from an authoritative point of view, we could pass on to something or give or take it, but when you actually give to someone something, that if you look at it in reality, you have actually not given anything because that was never yours. Although it may look like you are a good person because you share with others, but what is there to be virtuous from the point of view? And since if you say there's nothing to share, then others could also get into argument with that person, saying, why are you not sharing with others? So absence of good and bad, and also it could be comfortable if you understand that there's also nothing to give and nothing to take. But if you start believing that there's someone to give and someone to receive, and also things to give and bad, and that could also cause problems. And that's a relative way, and that is not what Buddha has said, but that's just a middle stage in order to reach to the utmost part. And it is advisable to have a proper opinion of the essential and interpretative teaching. If in the Essential Sutra, if they have not talked about the utmost things, then it's actually there is nothing different from other religions too. If you say there's only Buddhism and we are the good ones and you're the bad ones, then there's no difference between the others. And so that's why Buddha said, even though the Amen Sutra or or if you say you have entered into the essential part, we say you have entered the sense of voidness. And also, how can you start differentiating where is the eyes, or what are the good ones or the bad ones? You have to take the essential parts, and the other parts are only just stages. If you do not talk about what is the essence, but if you only talk about the interpretive manners, then you could easily get into argument. For example, I'm not drinking. Why do you drink? And you could also start having the understanding that I am a right person and I'm doing the good ones, and whereas you are doing the bad ones. And in that manner, there will be no end to the arguments. With proper classification or understanding of the sutras, and in that manner, if the sattvas doubts disappear, the practice of sattva at least you need to have a clear understanding or the belief that there is a there is a borderline from which all your doubts will disappear. If you have a doubt, you will start wondering if you do this manner, if that could be possible, or if which it could be true. If you start having doubts and if your faith is not deep enough, then you could stop in the middle way, or you could also go to a diverted path, and there will be no progress. It happens most of the time. It's almost like there's a hole in the tire, and even if you try to fill up the gas or air, the harder you try to fill it up, there will be more leakage. And also, so when you actually fill up an utensil, you try to check if there is a leakage in the utensil that you are trying to fill. But when you are actually passing our way, to the right path, if we are not able to see what is wrong and right, we can never progress. For example, if you take rice into a bowl, then there are so many quantity of the rice. But if we put a little stones in there, about 3 to 4, of course it could become a rice. But while eating it, we could break our teeth. And so it's just like we plug out the weed from the grassland. We have to stop it right the moment when you realize that it is wrong. That is the most important aspect for the practitioner. If you believe that, if you think that it is not good karma and it's advisable that we stop, then you need to stop it right away. But Korean people, because there are so much affections, they wander around different places, and that is very dangerous. And in that manner, you could never progress even a step. Although you feel like you have progressed a little, you have not actually progressed. If there is anything, if there is a wrong manner, if there is something wrong, and if you proceed, then you will start going to the wrong path more. Just like a balloon, if you blow a balloon with a hole, then the balloon will burst. So here, what is right, what is proper? It means there is nothing that is wrong. So even when we choose the rice, there shouldn't be any impurities for the rice. Then only we say that rice is a good rice. There is no teaching or there is no law that could be just taken it in a moderate manner. If you practice, then you should know how sensitive they react. On a path, if there is any error or if there is any doubt, you will be stuck there and you will not be able to progress. That's quite weird. Even if you have a very small doubt, while sitting and meditating, if there's a pressure on the karma, and also when you reach the state when it's about to break off, then in a very sensitive manner, the doubts will grow and you will start having bigger doubts if it's not going to work out. So that's why the reason why we're listening to the teachings or reading the sutras is to make sure that we do not do things which are not proper. And also we need to figure out what are the things that are not proper. Especially it is more so in Buddhism. So those really good farmers, when they go to the farm, they know what kind of grass grows at some point of time, and they know how long they have to work out to remove all of them or plug out all the weeds. But the people who are not able to differentiate them, they miss out the proper timing to do it while doing other things. And so the thing which could be done in a day, it takes them 4 to 5 days to complete, which is also in difficulty. So those people who are expert in farming, just like them plucking out the weeds, when you know that they are improper, you have to pluck them out without any doubt. Even if it's the prayer or the religious practice that I'm doing now, if there's any part which is expecting for some luck or virtue, then in the end you are actually committing the karma that could take you to hell. So if you're not trying to make virtuous acts or do virtuous acts, but in fact you are expecting for some, it becomes a bad karma for you, because that's something that does not happen or is not possible. So if you don't know those things, well, I heard this in a lot of places. After listening to my teaching, it gives them a great headache. And when I ask, why do you have headache? They just told me that they have headache because they are trying hard, they are struggling to survive, and that's why they go in front of Buddha and asking him to give them blessings. But I refuse that it is not the same, and I told them that it's not the same. And so when they go around checking what are the virtuous things that they have done in their life, they haven't done much. It's quite funny. The human beings have very funny ideas. If I have done one act of virtue, we expand it, and we see and we think we have done something so great. Although we have done such great deeds of evil, we see it in a very strong manner. The Prime Minister, he says, Iwangu Prime Minister, he says he has not done anything wrong. He just met him on the street or just passed down, but he has actually spoken to him for about like 200 times in an year, but he doesn't even talk like that to his parents. That's why Mr. knows that maybe two of them got married. As per human natural instinct, we are bound to shrink the bad things that we have done. So even our Yana, when someone says that someone has done something, then she talks as if everything is done wrong by the other person when she hasn't. But later I always find out that she has done 90% wrong. Whereby it's not only her, it's everyone else. Even at the court, no one really says, I have done wrong. They only say, I have done the proper thing, but the other person has done wrong. So even living life in the wrong way, we are not aware of what kind of the consequence it will bring to us, because we always try to shrink its reality. And so the doubt, if I'm not aware of the true classifications, or if I don't have the true understanding, then while living or while practicing, there will be always two paths shown in front of us, and we will be confused, and there will be more problems. And again, just like a hole in the tire, the air will be leaked out. And so you need to have a proper understanding of the right law, and you need to have and you also need to have a accurate belief. So if you plant wheat, then you'll be harvesting wheat, and you'll be harvesting beans if you plant beans. So the thought that I have in my mind, you have to wonder if this is a thought that could actually make me happy in a proper way, or if this is a thought that could bring me misery. If you're not able to have a clear understanding, then you have to ask your teacher. Well, if you're not able to make a proper judgment, ask your teacher, especially those religious practices. It's almost impossible for you to find out. When I went there, they also study the Thousand Eyes and Hand Sutra. Of course, they study, but the motivation is different. When we ask, why did you read this sutra? If they answer, because they said it's good for children. Then, although you have read the same Thousand Eyes and Hand Sutra, it's very different. It's almost like if you have stomach ache, you could apply some medicines to get better. It's same like that. Likewise, if the doubt of the sattvas disappear, then the practice gets concentrated to a point. Imagine if someone is asking you to do offering to others, you might think that since this is Buddha saying, also the monk saying, so it might be correct. But that is not actually the fate. But you need to think that this is how people live, and this is the way how human beings live. And if you think about it that way, and if you start contributing to others, it's not only the materials. You could also do talent contribution. And if you do it, then your heart will start changing, and your environment or surrounding will also start to change. If you don't have that faith, then this will be just verbal interactions and verbal party. In this world, no one really dies because they are not able to say whatever they wish to, but everyone could say whatever they want to. When you listen to people speaking, then even those politicians nowadays, if we have done what people have asked us to do, then the politics or the Korean politics should be very clean and also very good. But even nowadays, the politics is so corrupted. It's not my say, but it is what they say. These are the words of the politicians, not me. Although I wish not to talk about this dirty politics, or else your doubt will only start to grow, and just as if, well, when you're crossing the big valley in places like Nepal, since the mountain is very high, in most places it's the cliff, and they don't even have money and technology to put the bridge. So they have normally hung the wires. So there's you don't have to pay money to ride the cable cars. You can go there, and it's very thrilling. It's very safe here, but in place like that, it's very thrilling. It's full of thrills. Just like crossing those valley, it is very dark. You're not able to cross it. Whatever you heard, You need to reason out that, and it's very important to do that. Germans or Americans, there is a part that I like very much. First, whatever they do, they argue first. The uh, Tibetan monks are invited to Germany a lot of times, and when they go, uh, the Tibetan monks, they said they get headache because they want to reason out a lot, and they reason out whether it is the beans or the red beans, and and the Tibetan monks have to tell them in very detail. If they do not tell them in detail, then well, it's not very trustworthy. So I heard that Tibetan monks, they don't prefer going to Germany. When they are invited to Germany at some universities, and if they do the lecture, and especially those college students, they want to debate a lot, and so it gives them headache. But once they start to trust, the trust is very sure. So you need to have question for something all the time. The Koreans, even if we tell them that it is just so, they just say it's okay, and they don't even ask questions. Even if we ask them to ask questions, they would just sit there, standing at, looking at you. You're asking questions because you don't know, and if you know, then you're not you don't have to ask questions. But we only ask questions if you know, that's to reconfirm. So even Koreans, they say they know everything, but they don't know. But Germans, although they don't, they claim to not know and ask questions. In fact, they know everything. Once I was crossing, and I was very surprised. Uh, there were people who were coming for the Tuesday teaching all the time, and they were having conversation, and I was so surprised at listening to their standards, and they were speaking about something so wrong. They were saying that the relics, the bucket full of relics, and there are so many buckets. Are they Buddha's relics? It's Buddha's relics. That's why they are there. If it's not Buddha's, uh, if all the relics are Buddha's relics, then maybe the stones in front of the monastery, they're all also Buddha's relics, and they were agreeing upon it, and I was very shocked. When you have seen something, for example, if you say there's Udambara flower blossoming, well, there's no one in this world who has seen the flower. Even if it's Udambara flower, there's no one who could actually prove that it is the Udambara flower. Since no one has ever seen it, it cannot be proved. And even if it blossoms, we have no idea that it is the flower that we talked about. It's possible that X could be anywhere. If you argue about it just once, then you can easily know that it is not true. Buddha, even if it was his own sayings, and even if it was a saying that he said in person, he said you need to reconfirm or double check if they are correct. He never asked you to blindly believe in it, and he never said he never lies. Buddha said everything I said is lie, and so they're just a tool for you to gain your enlightenment. But just like crossing the mountain using the rope is just a tool. The rope is just a tool to cross the mountain. But if someone said while crossing the mountain, and if he likes the equipment so much, and if he is clinging onto it, and he needs to be on the sky, clinging onto the rope throughout his life. So what Buddha said is all the tools. And at the time, Buddha said, through these tools, you need to gain enlightenment, but have attachment to it, and my words are never absolute. He said all of his words, none of them are absolute. And that's why in the Diamond Sutra, he said, my words are just like the boat with which you can cross the river. When you're crossing the river, you need to cling on to the boat, but once you cross it, you don't have to cling on to it. That's why the tool, whether it's going to sink under into the water, or if there is a hole, or you need to just double check if they are all fine. That's why whatever you have heard, you need to reason out first, and it's very important to confirm. So for example, if something happened and if I just suggest you to do something, just because it is my saying, it doesn't mean it is all correct. But then you need to ask me, okay, how does it happen? Or then I can also, I also try to explain on my best that due to these logical reasons this happens. I could also try to do that. If not, you are not different than the person standing on the busy crosswalk, not knowing where to walk to. If you're not, if you explain about the topic in a not very clear way, or if you're not very used to teaching, then automatically it will bring doubts. In Korean Buddhism, the words, some of the words, especially the nouns, some of them had one word containing about 17 different meanings. So if I write the word sun, it could also be the meditation, or good, or well, or could also be a good identification or differentiation. This word can be used in so many different ways. So even when we teach, you need to understand accurately. You need to understand accurately what that word particularly means during that teaching. But there are many cases where it is not done well. So when teachers they are teaching someone, then they need to be very clear about what they teach. And also something like and also in Buddhism, if we say we're talking about harmony, but in Korea, if we say if we want to have harmony, and for a same company, in order to harmonize, in order to build harmony, we need to drink together. There is also a saying that is very ridiculous. In which it's a saying, if the mass wants, then we can even beat the cow together. But no, it is not so. The harmony is spoken in the middle path very clearly. Not doing the wrong thing, but gathering the opinion towards the right one. That is the harmony. So that's why if you say that person is very sensitive, and that's why we cannot build harmony, that is different. In this world, in this dark world, people does not group together to the virtuous people, but people cling onto or gather together or build a harmony towards the people that they have the same opinion to. Right now, these things about Mr. Lee or Mr. Sun, they all have this problem because the harmony was based on this. They drink together and they take money, and while doing that, I'm sure that they had some problem with their money, and then they called the person who supplied money, and when they asked, "Oh, please save me," the person who gave the money said, "Oh, do as per the law." But then they said, "Okay, as per the law says," they given the names to the prosecutor. Well, if they wanted to do as per the law, then they shouldn't have taken the money, right? That's the real meaning between follow the rules, right? He should have done it when he is alive, but then just because he died, now the prosecutor is having difficult time, and the citizens of Korea, we argue now again that why would someone lie about it when they die? Well, at the time of death, there is a less chance that they would lie because they don't have to fear for anything more. But the harmony here, it is not the harmony, it is just grouping. Harmony should be of the proper right things, but if they're grouped together just for the money, then it's just torturing the crowd by those who has the vested interest. And so if you explain the Buddhist teaching in a very confused way, then it is not the fault of the Buddhism, because in Buddhism there is no word that is not clear, and you need to know that all the vocabulary in Buddhist teaching, they all contain very serious philosophical ideas. If your teaching method is not clear, or if your understanding is not very accurate, then automatically it's going to raise doubts. But even if they have explained in a way that it's very clear, you also need to know, those listeners also, first when we start the teaching, we talk about the vowels in Tibet, the vowels which are broken, or the vowels which were dirty or turned upside down. But in those broken vowels, no matter how much you try to fill it, they all leak. And that's like those people who do not follow the Buddhist precepts or Buddhist teachings, even if we try to make them listen, they cannot listen to it. And also, if you do not throw away the wrong ideas, and if you only hide it, and while listening to teachings, if you do it on your back, then that's almost like filling food into the bowl that's filled with all the dirt. There was a person who is very good at exorcism, and once that person came to me and said, the Avatamskara Sutra is great. And when I asked how great is it, he was like, there's so many gods here. All the different gods, in order to in order to rationalize the fact that he sees God and he does exorcism, the only thing that he's looking is at the names of gods written in the sutra. It seems like when you are hungry and when you go to mart and the only thing that you're interested is on the free food that's given as a sample. So you eat the meat that's been roasted or pineapple. I've seen that. And while going, you come back and you eat it again. There are also people who almost try to fill their stomach. So the poisonous ones are you need to empty your bowel completely and listen. But without doing that, if you listen to it together with your karma already that you have, then it will create complex problems. So just in case if your room is smelling of something, and if you put other deodorants or some other perfume to make it smell better, then the room has more complicated and complex smell. So you need to open your door to let the smells go away. It's also like if all people use expensive cosmetics in order to smell better, it doesn't really do any better. Instead, you need to wash clean. Well, sometimes I see old people when they wear a very red lipstick, and when they are not even able to apply it properly, I think it looks very ugly. I thought maybe it's better if they just live on with how they look like. If they have applied very thick lipstick, it even makes it difficult for them to speak. The above lines refer to the Perfect Understanding Sutra and the Sutra of the Incomplete Truth. What teachings do they teach, and also what are the sutras of the Sutra of the Perfect Understanding and Sutra of the Incomplete Truth? They have important relation with the Buddhist philosophy. Basically, Buddha is said to turn three Dharma chakras. First, he turned the chakra of the Noble Truth. The Four Noble Truths are the base and also of the frame of Buddhism. In the Four Noble Truths, there are the holy truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, the holy truth of cessation of the suffering, the holy truth of the path leading to the cessation of the suffering. When Buddha turned the second wheel, he spoke about the holy truth of the cessation of suffering. At this time, all the teachings are mentioned in the Sutra of Kol Panyagu, and since the content is so complex and also delicate, there are many misunderstandings of the voidness from here. And so, therefore, when he turned the third wheel of the Dharma chakra, he spoke about the phenomenon of belonging, the phenomenon of reliance, and also the phenomenon of confirmation. And in this, he speaks about the voidness in a more detail. When Buddha spoke, he divided into three very basic classifications, and he spoke. And here he's going to speak about the Perfect Understanding Sutra and the Sutra of the Incomplete Truth. He spoke about the Four Noble Truths. And while living in this world or in the hell or in the samsara, what is the most common thing? The common thing is the suffering. So when you feel it, you call it suffering. But when you have something interesting, then you forget about the suffering again, and you have attachment or obsession to the interesting thing. So everything that's happening in this world is followed by suffering. That's why we say the holy truth of suffering. And if that's so, like Buddha, why did the suffering arise? And that is the holy truth of the cause of suffering. The suffering arose because of my attachment or my obsession to myself. And if we go a little deeper, then we will come across the idea, the darkness or ignorance. But since I'm attached to myself, the suffering arises because I'm not able to distance myself from it. But then are we able to let it go? Or so here that we understood that is the holy truth of the cessation of the suffering. And since the suffering arises due to your persistence, if you let that go and if you let your greed go, then it is possible. And so if we ask what is there a method to let it go, then there is a method, and that is the last one, which is about the method of letting go, the holy truth of the path leading to the cessation of the suffering. So first, when Buddha spoke about this, he spoke about these Four Noble Truths for about 8 years. And while doing that, what kind of problem arose? Everything has suffering, and we show what is the cause of the suffering and what happens if we get rid of the suffering. Everything here is relative method. Since they are relative method, it was not easy to explain about the absolute method when the agony disappeared, and this started the contradiction to the teaching. And Buddha spoke about the paramita since then. And so when you observe the world after the suffering is eradicated, how was the world? And Buddha started speaking about the paramita, and the paramita. It is so difficult that even Buddha spoke for about 21 years to his disciples about prajna. And since it's difficult, what phenomenon arose? People started having different thoughts because of their wrong interpretation. The prajna refers to the holy truth of the cessation of the suffering. It refers to breaking off all the agony. And since it is so, the problem arose when he was teaching about the prajna. They still claim that it is not void inside, but there is something that goes to the samsara. And this kind of arguments kept on. And since this problem kept going on, Buddha started speaking or teaching about the voidness completely. So the speech about the voidness that is the perfect understanding sutra, but in fact there are a lot of difficulties for people to follow this unless until they have complete faith. Amongst many thousands and 10,000s of practitioners, this could be understood by 1 or 2 practitioners, and that belongs to the beginning part of the Sutra of the Incomplete Truths. So here he started speaking about the absence of I in a more complete manner. So what is the essence of the Buddhist philosophy? There are some people who say it's enlightenment, but more than that, it is more important to understand that there is no I, and there is no property that exists forever, and there is no Atman that lasts forever. That is the essence. And when we argue if the Buddhist philosophy is wrong or right, forget about nirvana or enlightenment. But first, we have to argue if this is a perfect explanation of absence of I. But even if there is the teaching, or even if there's a sutra, it doesn't belong to Buddhism. It does not have the contents of essence of I. It is not talking about the ultimatum. So when you study the Buddhism, you need to have a complete faith for the absence of I. Well, its explanation, but well, in the footnote it's written that the phenomenon of belonging or reliance or confirmation, they are the words that's used to explain the words directly. And if you look at those words, they have the phenomena depend on the phenomenon that everything follows the relation and they get obsession and it forms a form. And so everything existing in this world, they do not exist in an independent way. But karma, even the karma, if you speak about it in a scientific manner, they can also form kind of molecule. And just like the life, they can have the fusion and they can become into one lump. And that is the imputed nature. And the interdependent nature is, since it is imputed, it has imputed nature, just like water exists with the oxygen and also carbon. So just like it, if you attack your husband saying that he is a bad person, the wife exists relying on the husband. But if there is no husband, the wife doesn't exist. And if you curse your husband, or if you swear at your husband, or if your husband is saying bad things about you, that's in fact you are saying bad things at yourself, because you exist in an interdependent manner. Just like our hand and the body exist interdependent to each other. It's almost like you are slapping yourself with your hand. Then you feel like it's only the palm that hurts, but actually your hand also hurts, because both of them are connected to the brain. But foolishly, we attack the person that we rely on to exist. And by attacking the person that rely on to exist, by fooling them or with the act of violence, we try to gain our benefits. And also our religious people, we exist relying on other sentient beings or even the believers, but by using them, if we try to make our own business, or if we do not lead them to the right way, it's in fact that we are killing ourselves. Because if they live a good way, a good life, or in a good way, then it becomes I'm also providing myself the proper way to live, and also I'm providing myself the strength. So here the phenomenon of reliance, it means that there is no being in this world that is independent at all. Since there is nothing that is independent, if I want to be healthy, because we only think for ourselves, and we only try to clean ourselves by drinking from the water filter, and we try to throw away all the polluted items into the sea. We just think if I am clean, that's more than enough. Since we are relying on everyone else, we cannot just be independent. What is funny is that it's quite funny in the East Sea, what they have thrown is those residues, the sludges from the factories that does the plating, and so from they start throwing from the shore, and they go all the way to Dokdo, and they throw a lot of different a lot of things, a lot of polluted items, and the heavy metals they sink deep into the sea. And also the Russians, they throw away the nuclear residues. And since we have thrown away the dirt, we think we are clean, but in fact we catch crabs from the deep sky and we eat them. It's not even funny. If we only think a little, then we know that they are not fine. But why do we do that? We do that in order to earn money. And what are you going to do with the money? We are actually earning money by doing things that's bad for ourselves. The human beings are so simple, and they don't know that we rely on each other. It's quite funny because when you drive around, it's very fun. Although it's a little dangerous, you pay expensive price for it. Some expensive ones are almost the price of apartments, and also even the small cars. Even the small cars, they are about they are about 100,000. They're about 10,000, and it's so expensive. And if we say there are about 40 to 50,000 cars in Korea, well, I think in developed countries, they drive a lot of cars, and also if they run a lot of factories, those countries who emit a lot of pollutions, they should actually pay money to the developing countries, because the amount of the pollution that we create and we emit, they also get spread to other countries. It's not like air doesn't move, and if I make the cars, I will put the cylinder in front of the driver's seat. And I don't think anyone will want to drive the cars. They emit the exhaust gas, and they think they don't drink, but it's quite funny because they're in fact drinking from the other cars. And if there is also traffic jam on the highway, and if you just stand and watch them, it's like I drink your gas and you drink my gas, and just because of the civilization and the way that human beings live now is quite funny. It's quite fun to watch. If you have quite some money, then you emit more gas, and if you have less money, then you emit less gas. The yellow dust from China, one of the reasons is also the desertification, but also from the sheep and cattle. They eat even the root of the grass. And since that becomes a reason in China, they chase away all the nomads, and also since they don't have the source to live on, but in countries, in places like Beijing, they cannot even see 10 meters long. And the yellow dust from China, Koreans drink, and also the Japanese, they also breathe with the same air. So in this world, there is no being that's independent, but we are all interdependent. So we have to be good to everyone. Once I asked someone to drive safely, and the person was like, "It doesn't work out only if I drive safe." And when I asked them, "You should also try to do better," and the person was, "It doesn't make changes." But you have to start doing on your own. If you don't start, then you feel like there will be no difference. You need to start making changes. It's almost like in elementary school, the teacher asks everyone, the students, to close your eyes. But one of the students says, that the student has their eyes open. Once you start having gray hair, you should be graduating from the elementary school, but your personality hasn't grown. It's almost like back in the elementary school. Well, after some time, yesterday, the Prime Minister Yuan Gu has given resignation. He should have given it way before, but now he has only given it because of the pressure. And after this, now we have all the lies, and after all the lies, the netizens are put up the pictures and other information online. And then after the inspection, he's bound to say that it's not only me, everyone has done it. Why are you only blaming on me? Just like back in the elementary school classroom, be quiet. It's not only me who is talking, even she's talking. And also the senior party, they also say if there is something wrong, they should say, "Oh, I really regret for whatever has happened." But in fact, they blame on Minju Party for for the same thing that they have done. But first, you have to start making changes on your own. Nowadays, the digital, they do not get switched off easily, but they take advantage of the grandmothers. Once the person was having the phone in her hand and she was not sure if she pressed it. When I asked what's wrong, and the person said, once I pressed, and they asked me to press, so I pressed all the yes, and everything got deleted. So the digitals, they do not listen to old people, but they only listen to youngsters. Sometimes when I also press, it disappears, and I cannot find it anymore. Here is written about. Here is talking about the voidness. That you feel that it exists in reality but doesn't exist, but it's actually just rounded up to the beings. And the phenomenon of dependence, since there is nothing that's already existing in you, we call it void. And also the phenomenon of reliance, because it does not arise on its own, we call it void. And also the phenomenon of conformation, there is no being that is ultimately there, that's why it is void. even the imputed nature exists because of the chemical phenomenon between them, just like the water doesn't exist as its own. That's why it is void. And also the complete reality, it doesn't exist because it is also empty, it is also void. So everything is empty, everything is void. But the Dharma chakra that he turned for the third time, just like Yorejangyang, like those specific sutras, they explain about the bright light of the mind. So Buddha explained once again about the flawless voidness that he explained when he was turning the second Dharma chakra. So when the agony disappears, the clear and also the clear state is explained as the light again and again. So just like the Buddha's light. So even on the Buddha's birthday, the reason why we light up the candles or the light is it is offering of the heart that we wish to have wisdom and also be as clear as Buddha. So although it explains about the clear light with the objective mind's clear light, it refers to wisdom. So it talked about in the second Dharma chakra, it talked about the prana, but on the third Dharma chakra, in order to see this light, in order to see this wisdom, he gave this speech. So when he turned the second Dharma chakra, the part that he spoke prana, in order to make that more clear, because there are many misunderstandings. In order to make it a little more clear, he spoke about this again. He gave the third Dharma chakra. In this third Dharma chakra, it explains in detail about the property of the mind. It also gives more detailed explanation of the holy truth of the path leading to the cessation of the suffering. This leads automatically to the Tantra's teaching. So while explaining this, the essence because it's the heart that starts off all the time, the essence. So how does the heart arise, or how does it turn into a habit? It has been explained in very detail. And later, this became the holy truth of the path leading to the cessation of the suffering, and also later we stand into 6 parameters, and then this also became Tantra later on. When we talk about when Buddha spoke at the time, there was the era when most of the world was ruled by gods, and so And so here the saying is the essence is me, and I can become also like them. And so do I exist? I can be blessed and I can be happy. And the human beings are essence of everything and they are the center of everything. And here it is not the Atman, but it is I. And I am the center of everything at the time when the God is supposed to rule the world. And I am not the I who is eternal, but also but also here the I is a dependent arising. So and also the dependent arising, the I here is the voidness. So it is the saying that I am the best in this world is not against Buddha's saying. The Buddha has taught only for the benefit of those who listen. So you should not try to get any benefit by doing or conveying Buddha's teaching. In order to be famous or in order to get a crowd, you should never do something with the Buddha's teaching. But the main aim of doing Buddha's teaching or spreading Buddha's teaching is to teach how to become happy to everyone. And so when you're teaching Buddha's teaching or spreading Buddha's teaching, you should never do anything for your benefit. When you're sitting in the Dharma seat, the seat where you're teaching the Dharma, you should never say anything for your benefit, or you should never do any acts of selling or business. And no matter how many different Dharma seats that Dalai Lama said all over the world, he never asked for Tibetan freedom. He never did any of those campaigns. And also, you have to be precise and also clear of how to give happiness to others. But it's up to them if they follow or not, but it's an obligation to tell them. So Buddha, depending on the patience of listeners, depending on the patience of the listeners, he gave profound teaching at some, and at some times he also had more narrow but detailed teachings. So if the level of the listeners are strong or high, then he would speak at a higher level. But if the level is low, then he had to speak at a low level. Because if you speak at low level to those listeners of the high level, then they would easily get bored, and also they will start distancing themselves from the Buddha's teaching. Depending on the educational level, the teachings that has been spread, they started developing into different systems of Buddhism. So those Buddhism which were spoken at a low level, they develop on their own, and those spoken at the higher level, they started developing on their own. And when I said this, once I was questioned that wishing for blessing or superstition or doing exorcism, they are also part of low Buddhism, but it is not so. And also, when you pray to the God, the Christian God, that thank you for giving us food and all these things, actually they're very distanced from the God.
그런 소리 해갖고 그거는 사실 하나님하고는 실제 거리가 뭐냐.
Also, when you pray that your parents gave you food, well, they prepared the food for you, but it's not that they gave you the food. They bought the rice and they also cooked the rice and gave it to you. But it's the rice made by your mother.
밥을 해주신 거로 만드는데
Although we can only give the conditions of harvesting the rice, but the rice is actually made from the plant. So they are formed by different conditions.
농사를 지었을 수 있지만 그거는 농사 짓는 데는 조건을 만들어 줄
So we need to be thankful to the mother and also the sun and also the farmer
이러저런 조건
and also the wind.
태양, 물, 바람 이런 것에 의해서 만들어.
But in fact, we don't do so. We are only when you only think that it's only from the mother. Even the mother is only happy at the things that they could do for their children.
바람에 대한 감사, 물에 대한 감사 그렇게 해야 되는데 우리는 그렇지 않잖아. 뭐냐? 지네 엄마
That's why we do not think very deep.
자기가 해준 낙터를 좀 내려니까 그게 기분이 좋고.
So if we do not think well, the food that we eat, they get polluted very easily. And also very important conditions of our life are polluted. And also if we drive a lot of cars and if we use a lot of energy, because of the global warming,
식량이 바로 오염되고
even Yosu,
중요한 조건들이 오염되고 차를
even Yosu, we do not have autumn or spring, but it becomes summer or winter all of a sudden. And also apples, they're not grown in the Daejeon area anymore, but it has to go higher up because the weather is getting warmer. And also in the North Pole, the icebergs, they have started melting too. That's because of the carbon dioxide and also those gases from your cars too.
북극에 얼음 녹는 것
But
굉장히 많이 녹아버렸어.
But with the thought that I am the only one who needs to be happy and surviving, you destroy so many different things, and they are also a great misunderstanding. That's a very serious misunderstanding. And if we say let's try to reduce cars at each respective homes, then the Hyundai cars will also have a problem, and also the government will say. Government will start asking questions. With what right are you trying to reduce the cost? But you try not to reduce any of your greed, but you only wish to have convenience. And while doing that, you break off many different conditions of your life.
또 이제 난리가 나겠지. 지옥심은 하나도 안 주려고.
And finally, 4 different Buddhist schools were established.
내 스스로의 그 삶을 갖다가 내
Let's do until here today. And was there any questions this week? I have there's a question from last week.
네 개의 주요한 분류 학파가 성립되게 되었습니다. 오늘은 이제 요까지 하고 질문이 저번 주에는 이번 주에 질문이 없거든요.
The first question is
질문이 들어왔는데 저번 주죠? 네.
the first question is about the monk with the blue eyes. Is it the only blue eyes, or it's also written here that do they also have different color eyes like golden eyes or even red eyes?
납작하고 신통의 한
Well,
종류인가요? 수행의 한
This
단계인가요?
doesn't make sense.
눈물 그 붉은 납자도 있나? 붉은 눈과 황금도 있나요? 그래 해놨어 일단. 눈 푸른 납자라는 불교의
All these things are very superstitious.
얘기 등등이 많습니다. 그리고 또 어디서는 안과
Is it only that monk could see, or did the other monks could see? And did they see the light sparkling from his eyes? these are just all superstitious things. How is it possible that other people sitting in the place they couldn't know that the light was sparkling? And how did they know that the light was sparkling? And when you were seeing Dalai Lama before, you said you get medicine in your dream. Can that happen to other people too, or is it similar? Or is the person with the blue eyes at the low level, and is the Dalai Lama at the higher level? Well, in a simple way, the blue eyes here refers to the eyes without agony. This is also a comparison. This refers to someone who has only proper thoughts because your agony is gone. This is a comparison, and we also say that the eyes are a reflection of our mind, and that's why here we use the word tongue, and which is similar to blue, and that's why we say it is clear. Well, if you have blue eyes, then what about the animals who can see very well in the darkness? This is all a comparison. The monk with blue eyes is a comparison that with your all agony gone and you have good thoughts. So we call them that. This is a comparison. The eyes are a comparison, and the rest of the questions, I don't think they're important.
좋은 생각을 내는 사람 그렇지만 납작을 해요. 이거는 눈 비유입니다. 눈은 비유고 그 밑에 얘기는 뭐 달라이라마.
Well, it seems like the other people could also say that other people could have said that that monk is great. I heard that he's a very respected monk. Did you see the light from his eyes? How can the light sparkle from the eyes? It's not like there's a laser from the eye, but there are also very few star talks. It's not like it's sparkling, but although we say it is a light from the eyes, and that means his eyes is very clear and transparent. But nowadays, if you see the X-rays, they have very clear and blue eyes. But because of that, we do not say they do not have any agony, right?
깨끗하다 그런 거지. 눈 맑고 깨끗한 거는 나 보니까 요즘에 여배우들이 굉장히 눈이 맑고 그렇던데.
Actress Shimona, she has really blue eyes, but if you go and ask her, all her agonies disappear. It isn't so.
이름 잊어버린데.
And there is no way that a light can emit from the eyes, and also the saying that the light can be reflected from the eyes. It's also that the person has a good eyes.
나올 리도 없고 이것은 안광 그런 것도 이제 그분의 눈빛이 좋다 그런 뜻이지. 그 빛이라는 것은 그냥 우리가 일상적으로.
Well, in the dream, Dalai Lama gave medicine. Sometimes I'm also seen in your dream, right? Well, I didn't go to your dream. I have never gone to your dream, but that's your saying. But I didn't go. I was so busy sleeping, and I don't even think about visiting your house. Think about it. You're also tired and you're sleeping, and while sleeping, you also snore and do salivers drop out of your mouth too. And why would I go there? So sleep ill. And sometimes they call, well, I had a dream of you yesterday. Is it a good dream or bad dream? So I said, I don't think there will be many good things. I don't think there will be good things because you see me in your dream. So don't see me in your dream. The second question.
내가 그랬어. 진옥 스님 봐가지고 별로 좋을 일 없을 거요. 앞으로 보지 마시오.
The easiest way to control our mind, although we offer at times, I'm hoping that I am not expecting anything in return, but at times I fear that I'm expecting something in return, and and each time nowadays I think that those thoughts are in fact harming me, and so I wish not to think about them. But uh, but in order to make sure that these thoughts does not arise in my mind anymore, please tell me the method not to think about them. And also, you talk about the importance of offering. Can you please tell us importance about the offering once again? First, the prana here is very important to understand what is prana. Here, prana refers to we are crossing. Well, that is also a comparison, and but it is better to say we are escaping from the agony or suffering. So we are escaping from the suffering that's caused by our greed. So giving away or contributing or offering, first we are doing it in order to be happy. But we normally we think we are doing it for other people's happiness, right? But essence is I always come first. Why? When I think about giving to others, it actually starts from my own thought. So many different methods to kill our greed. There's nothing better than giving away or offering, even the same as the teaching. Because I teach people about the precise teachings. Before others know, I am also bound to know better. So, how important is the study now? So, it is not only the offering prana, but all the six paramitas. It does not end only with me, but it also includes altruism for the others. Because we live our life in a relative manner. So while offering, if you think that although we say that although we hope that this is for my happiness, that kind of thing arises. Well, it is not easy to get rid of them. Even when you are giving something to others, when you're giving to or offering to others, your hand is shivering at the thought of giving it, and also when you try to give $300 away as an offering, you want to take out $100, and that happens because that's your habit, and also because of our characteristics. If I don't have the thought that it's actually a blessing for me, then you will not have the thought of starting it. But at the first time when it's not happening, you should actually try to start off even with that. But if there's someone who has very bad temper, like Chung, he got married because his father asked him to get married. But on the first day of the marriage, he wanted to get divorced, and 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 he was like he wants to get divorced because the wife is not even able to bear a child, but he just got married and he's complaining about not having a child. But even the offering, you offer now and you want the blessings to happen to you, but when you are actually offering something or expecting something, the timeline is all different. Do you know the seed that blossoms the first or sprouts the first? It turns into a sprout. That's the radish. If you plant radish, it will start blossoming, and then the lettuce about a day later.
시가 넘으면 금방 5m.
And the one that doesn't grow, there is a pine tree.
올라와. 그다음 배추 씨가 그다음 바실바실 하루쯤 또 지나고 올라오고. 제일 안 트는
Pine tree, when it's floating around in the sea, even if it floats around about 3 to 4 years, it does not
야자는
turn into a sprout.
떠다닐 때는 바다에 떠들 때 3년 4년 떠다녀도 우리 안 튀어.
Even the seeds are all different, and it's as if like you have planted the pine tree, but you want the result to happen just like a radish. Then
씨앗도 이렇게
you should know
자기는 야자 씨앗을 심어놓고 무 틀은 것처럼 그러면 그 얼마나 조급돼가지고
you shouldn't be too impatient about something. So the life that you have right now is mostly the result of the karma of your previous life,
빨리 크라고.
and so it's an analog from your previous life.
그래서 지금 쓰는 것은
So the things that's going to happen in your next life, most of them you have done in this life.
그 업으로 만들어진 기계로
So I said, please, when you're living in this life, and if you want to be reborn in a good family, then you should at least live for others, or you should at least live a life that's a little bit better than what you're doing now. If you do not live a proper life, then again, next life,
지금보다는 훨씬 복스럽게 잘 살아줘.
if you take all your luck or blessings that you have now and use it in this life, the next life you're going to have a more difficult life. So you have to think about the
다음 생에는 빈 냄비
parameters, and if it doesn't happen in the beginning, then you have to start off slowly. But if you look at it in the deep voidness, then even the materials that you are going to give, the characteristics or property of it is futile, and also the person receiving it, it is also void. And so while giving, you should also even the thought that
나도
it's only the thought that even when you're giving, it is void, and even the receiver is void. So when you offer to me, don't even think about getting it again.
받을 생각도 없어.
You shouldn't think about expecting something in return. If you do so, then maybe in next life I'll be working in your house as a servant. I don't want to work as a servant. I have done that in about 15 days before.
다음 생 갔다면 그 집에 가서 무슨 자리 해?
I went to some the fruit plantation, and
옛날에
I was on travel, so I went there, and they requested me to help them, so I helped them for about 15 days. But they chased me away after the work is done, without any money. But nowadays, when I think about it, I think
한 푼도 안 주고 그냥 쫓겨났어. 요즘에 와서
I think that house nowadays is living quite a good life, and also I think maybe in the previous life, that person gave me money expecting something in return, and because I don't have any abilities, and also I heard that Buddha does not have those abilities to make your wish come true. I have seen it in the sutra. So for example, Buddha doesn't have the ability to change the wrong answer into a correct one, but it is blessing of Buddha to make you study hard or encourage you to study hard.
좀 쉽다고 되게
And I think when they requested me to pray that the exam result will be good, and although I don't have any ability to make it better, I think I took the money. And I think maybe I could have prayed that let the person pass even without studying, and I think I used that money. But probably the person failed the test, and because the person failed the test, the person should have said that the owner has actually prayed, giving me money and expected something in return. But of course they could not have come to me and asked money back. But each time they cross the street in front of the monastery, I think the person could have thought about the money. And so I think I had to walk there for about 15 days. It was actually 15 days. And I think it's about $1,500. It's almost like it's the same, it's exact amount that I get if I work 15 days. Well, I think I have not put the money into a proper use. When they asked me to make me pray for the good result of the exam, quite funnily, it's quite funny that I had to work there for 15 days. So don't try to. Don't think about using your husband's money in an easy way. The money that your husband brought. In next life, you have to pay them back. And you also, that's why think about the consequences and don't use them in any way you like. Use it at the proper place. On the Buddha's birthday, for the first 20 minutes, we are going to do our normal practice, and then later we are going to have the Buddhist precepts. We'll be receiving the precepts of Buddha, and so please give me the list in advance. And with the monks from the Ladakh, we are going to receive the Panchashala precept, and if the precept is over, the monks from the Ladakh who did not have many outer or external experiences, they're going to play the meditation music for us. Well, it's a mantra for them, but it is also like a music. About 1 hour 20 minutes they're going to perform, and we're going to end the previous day of the Buddha's birthday like that, and we will prepare the dinner here, so please come and have the dinner, and then we will start off with the program. And the lyric, there's a lyric that the Dalai Lama gave, Buddha's lyric, and we are going to have it here like last year. And from the a day before, and also a day after Buddha's birthday, we'll have it here. We'll have it exhibited here so that even people from other monasteries can see. And next day from 10 o'clock we'll start with the prayer, and also do the offering, and then we will have the bath ceremony for the little Buddha. And come with your grandchildren, and we can do a little sport time. And the day after Buddha's birthday, before we wash the Buddha's statue, we'll pray, and we also make a little small praying table and pray for the Seven Fairy. Since there isn't anything that I can do, I think maybe we could pray that they could be reborn at a better place next time.
천원 시식을
And about
해야
the
되겠다고
light,
다른 일이 없으니까
the
그래서 좋은 곳에
if possible, each of you at least one lamp. Where since it's a wish, it's making a wish that please
여러분이
please guide us into the lighter place or place with light. So since it is a wish, making a wish, I think they have the smaller books and also the bigger books, and also the lamps. Please never put into a habit that it is this much price or that much price.
보시고 그래서
While your answers are very soft. Even when you were praying before, your voices were so low.
칩시다. 예? 대답이 아까 교걸 독송 오는데도 영 독송
Please do it more loudly.
여시야 모델시 불제사이고 기수거 고도건여 대비구 정천250인 이렇게 좀 그냥 크게 해.
You're praying this manner.
그러고 있어. 법성원령 무이상제법 부동본래적 이렇게 좀 이게 그 하면서 자기가 자기 곡조도 붙여가면서 무명무상절일제정지 소지비여경진성신신근요 불수자성 수연성 일중일체 다중일 일적일체 다적일 일미진정암시방일체 진주 여겨시 무량원급적일념일념적시무량거 부세십세 호상적 이렇게 좀
Have confidence when you're reciting your prayer. Have confidence.
좀 이게 할 때도 자신감 있게 해야 돼. 네? 너 본인이 좀 취해서 그렇고 그렇게 하지 말고 그렇구나 그래서 그렇구나 아이고
You need to have more confidence when you pray.
아이고 그렇구나 내가 마음을 바꿔야 되겠구나 이렇게 해야지. 혼자서 또 82살 먹은 중이 비 맞은 것 같이 그러면 안 돼. 연분 크게 하시오. 아 이제
Once a lady was living with a daughter-in-law, and they got into fight, and in the very early morning, since they had argument about 3 o'clock, she would wake up and recite prayer very loudly only in the morning, and because of that, they actually got into fight.
이것들이가 3시만 되면 오금이 저려가지고 자지도 못하고 일어나고 비도 오는데 따라 나오지도 못하고 아주 죽겠다는 거야 그래. 그것 때문에 결국 신경이 날카로워지고 싸움이 붙었어.
That if the person had at least a little better voice,
좀 그래도 이제 그분이 목소리가 아주 좀 좋은 분 같으면 저 정구업진원 수리 마수리 수
if the person had a good voice, then instead of wanting to wake up, she would be happy listening to the mantra. But it was a very difficult time for her to listen when her breathing was not fine, when her voice was not good, and also the speed was not pleasant to hear.
호흡도 안 맞는다 박자도 안 맞는다 그래가지고 아주
Well, about this lamp, the lighting of lamp, there is no price to the lamps. It's up to how much you can. And also the lamps that's right in front of Buddha. Buddha does not have a short-sightedness, and because he also has a third eye open, he can see everything. We say that, and because of that, you do not have to just hang it here. What Buddha knows is this lamp in front of Buddha is the last one that Buddha will know. But the moment you will have the wish to light up the lamp, light the lamp, then at the time you will, it's almost like you are connecting with the Buddha.
등불 공양을 올리겠다가 탁 켜는 순간 부처님하고 이게 뻗게 통화가 되는 거예요.
Just with your wish to light the lamp, just because of your offering wish to offer, you're already having your connection with your Buddha. And if he also asks you to pay as much as you wish to, depending on your belief, please don't take that as the index to show your belief. Whether it is $10 or $20, even inside this room, don't just make it a price, whether $70 or $80. I've also told them, do not differentiate the lamps depending on the price. If you have given $1,000 as donation or offering, then your heart should be $1,000 worth. Let's do that.
그렇게 마음을 넓게 해서 아이 100만 원짜리 뭘 100만 원 공양을 올렸다 그러면 100만 원만큼 마음이 넓어야지. 그렇게 합시다. 그리고 뭐라고?
On 16th May,
서울에 그 며칠 날이요?
from 8 to 9 in the night, people will gather in the Gwanghwamun Plaza,
16일 날 이게
and
저녁 8시야?
about 40 people have to go from Sokjo Monastery.
10시부터 9시까지
So if you can, please go and see what happens
모여서
there.
그 무차대 하는가 봐요. 그래서 석천사가 한 40명 정도 같이 가야 되는 거. 버스 빌려 놓을 테니까 여러분 한번 서울 나들이고 큰 뷔페 때 가가지고 저 앞에 뭐가 있는지 한번 보고 오세요.
We will prepare lunch and dinner too. 16th May, please register in advance.
이어서 이제 점심 저녁 공양 다 뭐 석천사에서
Also, 3rd May, in the Jinnam Elementary School, we will have the Jinnamje, and
미리 이제 사무실에다가
we are not going to have the Lotus Lamp Parade, so let's do it at the time.
진남초등학교에서 왜 우리
And on 4th May, we will do
그 나와서
the prayer to the ocean.